Hello, thank you for watching this webinar dedicated to exhibition design, organized by Design Expo Virtual Fair. I would like to thank Mr. Gajšak for inviting me. Let me briefly introduce myself. I'm Iva Berthon Gajšak, architect and exhibition designer, living and working in Paris within BGC STUDIO, Office for Architecture and Exhibition Design, which I founded with Giovanna Comana, my associate and partner. We founded our office in 2009, and since then have had a chance to complete numerous projects in the field of exhibition design. And I'm glad to share some thoughts with you about exhibition design, what is exhibition design, and why it is important. It is important because it helps us to see. And we know that we look with our eyes, but we see with our brain. And the perception is very important. So exhibition design helps us to see and to understand. And the other notion is related to the cultural industry, which is today very important. And some leading projects of the cultural industry are museums, and exhibitions, temporary or permanent, are a visual product of a museum. And in this sense, exhibition designers help create successful exhibitions. So let me share my screen now. And my screen and my thoughts about exhibition design with you. Let me start with vocabulary. How we name things is very important because it influences our thoughts and even our actions. And if I quote Albert Camus, who said, to name things wrongly is to add to the misfortune of the world, it might be a little bit exaggerated, but I think vocabulary is really important. And since I was asked to speak in English, I entitled this lecture Exhibition Design, but actually what more explains the work we do and the field of the profession of exhibition design is the word scenography, from Greek. Scenography related to theater, stage setting. This is something which is more describing the field of exhibition design than designing, which maybe implies drawing, designing, and scenography has some relation to theater, to the stage, to putting on scene. This is just a glimpse on the Greek theater in Athens with the scene, which is actually the background of the theater and the orchestra. And now this is the Louvre, Venus of Milo, one of the superstars in the Louvre, and she is actually somehow put on scene. So you can observe the relation with architecture. You can observe the background, the colors, the light, the space that she takes, the relation between the statues and her, behind her. And there is also the public. So actually, we also have the public. It is an active public. It is not theater public seated, but the public is certainly there, and this relies exhibition scenography to theater scenography. And now I had a chance to find these pictures that represent the placement of this Venus of Milo and some other periods. You can observe how different this ambience is. And this one is from 1864. Then another completely different setting where you have this statue in the end of the perspective, and this alignment of statues, and which produces a completely different effect. And then we have a 1989 completely sober and simple presentation with a lot of space. And then I come back to the first picture, and I think you already have maybe some other relation to this notion of position and of how this exhibition design can influence your thinking and your seeing of objects. Let me just make a very historical glimpse to the art of exhibiting. I will not talk about every kind of exhibition because there is trade exhibitioning, but I will focus on exhibitions in museums. And museums, as we know them today, as institutions who display and study the artwork, they only started in the Renaissance. First sort of exhibition spaces were related to curiosity cabinets who would showcase animals and minerals from everywhere in quite a dense way, accumulating things. And this is also the same perceptions that we can see in this allegory of sight, which is showing some kind of a curiosity cabinet, a sort of a Kunstkammer, Flemish style, where you also have this eclectic presentation of many different objects. And the same impressions years later, in 18th century, in Uffizi, one of the first museums, public museums in Italy, in Florence. Also this abundance, this accumulation, where you actually perceive more the whole and sort of richness than the individual object, which is a very interesting way of presenting things. But you have more an idea of a whole than of a singularity of each piece of art. This is one of the pictures of the Louvre in the 19th century. The British Museum, Zoological Gallery, again, very dense way of presenting. And now, in the 20th century, we have this big change. I will just show this glimpse of the project of Carlo Scarpa, Italian architect, a famous Italian architect, who maybe added to revolution this field of exhibition design. And this is his project in Castelvecchio in Verona, whom I had a chance to visit, and I was really interpelled. I mean, it's curious, why would you exhibit this horse in this place? So it kind of it makes you ask questions, and you can really perceive that there is something going on. There's something going on between these statues. They talk to each other. So you have to have an attitude and just really look and think. The 20th century was quite modern and has introduced some very white cube spaces, exhibition galleries, exhibition spaces, or some projects like Lina Bobardi's museum in San Paolo, also very interesting and new way of presenting art. First century, I don't know. I already mentioned this museum as a cultural product, as a landmark, and this is the museum in Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, which is one of these first museum landmarks who really helped in this industrial town to develop. So now we have a lot of new museums all over the world, like Nouvelle's museum, Louvre Abu Dhabi, or Doha, or the new Victoria and Albert Museum in Dundee, or Marseille, Mucem, all these very important buildings for like urban science. And as I said, exhibitions are actually their products. Nowadays, we have a lot of possibilities offered by multimedia. So we can create some immersive spaces, or some, there are possibilities of putting glasses and seeing some things that don't really exist in front of your eyes. Many possibilities that have changed the way of exhibiting in museums. There was one exhibition recently about Pompeii, which was more multimedia than presenting pieces of art, which has some good sides, because you could really project yourself into this space. But something was missing, and what was missing was these objects. And I think these pieces that are real witnesses of time, and they can create an emotion, a special emotion that simply cannot be replaced. So I think exhibitions still have a meaning. And I will talk a little bit about the process of creating exhibitions, as I announced in the contents. To create an exhibition, of course, is a process that involves a lot of factors. I helped myself with a book about exhibition design by Claire Merleau-Ponty and Jean-Jacques Ezrati, who define the most important exhibition factors, which are contents, of course, a theme and objects, which is the essential part of an exhibition. And then they distinguish determinants, space, again, objects that have really been chosen, means budget, and public, and environment and duration. And there is continents. Continents, they name supports, mediation, image and sound, and light. And these are actually factors involved in scenography. And scenography, of course, needs to take into account the two other factors, contents and determinants. So it is actually limited in many senses. Again, the vocabulary. There are some important professions related to the field of exhibitions, and I think we have some tendencies to mix them maybe. Curator is the main person. Curator is the one who has to imagine the exhibition, and who is scientifically responsible for the contents, and who chooses objects to be exhibited. And museographer, this is another profession, and they actually they create content. So even an institution which is not a museum can have a help of a museographer to organize their the way they would like to exhibit a theme that they have chosen. And then there is exhibition designer or scenographer to take care of putting actually this idea of the exhibition into space. So the idea is actually to develop this in the space, the ideas of the curator, and to adapt them. And the real successful exhibition lies definitely in the good connection, good understanding between the curator and the exhibition designer. Exhibition designer has a team of graphic designers, multimedia designers, lighting designers, who help them realize the project. To go back to the factors that I enumerated, scenography, each scenography is created of supports. This is our first BGC Studio project in the Cluny Museum in Paris. And the supports, we build supports in one existing place, venue, hall. And concretely, these are the supports, and then get into this space. A very important factor is light. Light really helps to perceive objects, artwork, and it is very, very important in creating atmospheres in the exhibitions. So you can pay attention on the intensity of light and the color of light, which completely changes the vision of the object that you see, that you look at. Mediation is another very important factor. We have graphic designers who can develop text or images that help in the mediation between the object and the public. And this is a little bit a decision of a curator. Sometimes you need to communicate more to explain. Sometimes just pieces speak for themselves. Multimedia is, of course, very important, and we use it very often to either explain or just entertain, let's say, to have a more pleasant visit of the exhibition. Now, there are some principles of the exhibition design that I thought they are maybe basic principles, but they're just BGC Studio principles, maybe. And these are, first, objects, a valorization and respect of the objects. Then second, exhibition space, project in resonance with exhibition space. And the third, attention to the visitors. So these three elements are crucial in making an exhibition. Objects are the basis. When we design, we really start from the objects. We have to know them, and we have to understand the subject to be able to react and to propose a project. Objects can be art, but can also be artifacts or any kind of object that man-made that would actually vehicle a meaning in history. We have to define the mode of presentation. The mode of presentation is relied on the preventive conservation. Of course, this is very important because we deal with some old and fragile objects. Then we have to decide the relationship between the pieces. It is evident that the whole story relies on the relationships that we create between the pieces, between the even sculptures or paintings or anything that you exhibit. There's always this relation, which is the principal in the project, and that there is a relation between the piece and the public. Of course, you have to put it in the way that all kind of publics will see it. And then there is ambience and light and color and the mediation, which I already talked about. So this is the first, the crucial point and principle of exhibition scenography. The second principle is related to space. There are various approaches. We generally exhibit in museums, in especially conceived venues, halls, but there are also many historical buildings that serve as exhibition venues. So there are several approaches of how the project is conceived in resonance with the space. There is negation of space. You can completely ignore the space where you build. There is the context as a background. You can really play with the context and just don't do anything, and the context will do everything. And there is a dialogue with existing space. This is one example. It is not our example, but the negation of space. So you can build something in a hall and don't pay attention to the rest. But this is also a case when you put some screens in the hall of a bank or a school. This is also somehow a negation of space and putting a neutral background. The second option is to have context as background. As I said, this is one of the typically artistic intervention, Maurizio Catalan. And we can also talk about scenography, which really uses the context as background, and this is actually a great use of space. And then there is this third option, which is dialogue with existing space. This is one of our projects. One of our projects in Venice, where we inserted the design in the Doge's palace, and we made a real connection between the design and the ceiling of this magnificent hall. There is another project of BGC Studio in Fondation Cartier Foundation. Also really a dialogue with the space, not even with the space, but with the city, and also the dialogue with the theme of the exhibition, which was dedicated to a Japanese photographer who actually is a very urban photographer. So you have this urban connection with architecture and design and in the city, and also like a night view of the same exhibition. You can see with dialogue in the space. And the third principle is related to public. So attention. It is very important to be attentive to the public because they have an exhibition is done for the public, and there is this physical barrier, let's say, material level. The exhibitors take space. When there are a lot of them, they take space. And then you have to take the movement into account. Designs are. We always have to think of how people will actually move in the space. If they can move linearly, but you can also just leave them to move freely. But you have to think about it in advance. And there is and then you have to tell them the story. This is this narration that we develop in space. It is for them. It is for public. And one of the French scenographers made this interesting parallel, actually, of a double level of exhibition designs. They function actually on. They can function also without the public. We have to. They tell the story. This relation, only the relation of object in space. They create the story for themselves. And now I will show you maybe these principles through some of our projects. of BGC STUDIO. I chose more to show you the process of how we actually build an exhibition. And the first project is Edward Hopper in Grand Palais in Paris. This exhibition was a real blockbuster, let's say. There were more than 800,000 visitors on this exhibition. So I thought it was interesting to show the design. This is the context of Grand Palais, one of the biggest exhibition venues in Paris. And now this is artwork. As I told you, artwork is the most important. So we have to study and find some ideas. The ideas generally come from the pieces of art. Edward Hopper is an American painter, and with this specific atmosphere in his paintings that we try to capture somehow to produce the scenography. So we found some recurring themes in Hopper's work and tried to look for an echo in scenography. We found the themes of suspended time, of this notion of exterior, interior, and spectator, voyeur, and tried to transpose this in space. We also tried to accompany the progression of Hopper's work with the room size. In the beginning, we had more formats and smaller formats. So we accompanied this with small rooms of smaller size, which progressively they kind of it's getting larger and has gives more space to the picture, to the paintings that need more space. And the same idea in the hanging, which is more dense in the beginning and then kind of loosens up to the end, and the same idea with the light. This is the plan. It's about 2,000 square meters of exhibition space. This is this principle of hanging when you have a series of paintings one by another, then you have this perception of the group, and when you separate the paintings, then you have this completely other relation to the painting. The same with the light. And now this is the reality. We need to put in space a certain number of object artifacts and in good order, which always takes some time and a lot of back and forth work. We try to dynamize the space with some projection, with different light ambiances, some lighter spaces alternate with some dark spaces. This is one of the halls before the exhibition, before the building. We just started building. And this is actually the exhibition design, the photographs of the executed exhibition. Now I will just let you look at it. This painting has inspired psychosis, Hitchcock psychosis. And this is this public, which always needs to be taken into account. And the space like really opens. opens up. This is, in the end, scenography that you don't practically see, but this is the idea. The idea is to show artwork and not to show design. Another project that I can show you is Etruscans and the Mediterranean. Project which was shown in the Louvre Lens. Louvre has a sort of child museum in Lens, or in the north of France. And this is another typology of exhibition about Etruscans. These are objects revealed in some of the necropolis of Banditaccia and Cerveteri. So the guides for this exhibition design, we were inspired with this place of this very interesting Cerveteri necropolis, of the fragments, because you don't have, there is still some sort of a mystery about this people of Etruscans, so you have to recompose the fragments from the past to create the idea of this of Etruscans, and then there is a narrative to accompany this history and the story to show in the exhibition design. And there is also this abundance of artwork, of objects to be shown, and we try to understand the exhibition. What are these objects? What is the relations between them? They were often found in some tombs, so they form groups, and we have to guide the visitor in between these groups of objects. And this is the plan of the necropolis of Banditaccia, very, very interesting, with the tumuli, the tombs. These are the ensembles of the tombs, how they really are found, the plans of actual tombs in Cerveteri. And this is the principle of our plan. We started to assemble these pieces in the way they are assembled in the necropolis. The process of work is always back and forth models, or 3D models, or paper models, in order to find the right solution. And I will just go quickly to some elements that we wanted to have sort of a spine in this exhibition, to which all the elements would connect. And these are the ensembles that develop around the spine. And this is our famous guiding line for the public, not to lose them, to try them to walk in the way that is needed to understand, to comprehend, because it's the meaning of this exhibition is to understand. The sections and the pieces. First, sketches of how, of the idea of how we would exhibit these pieces, masterpieces of Etruscan art. Principles of mediation. There are some exhibitions that need more of mediation elements. It was an exhibition of Etruscans in Mediterranean, so you have to explain more than in some other cases. And this is the result. The exhibition was in the Louvre Lens, in this new, very white, very clear hall, and we inserted also very, very clear and very light exhibition with these ensembles, who invited the visitors to get in and discover. And there is a mediation about plans, maps, Mediterranean, ensembles. And again, this sort of a dialogue with the space of the Sejima's museum. And to end this presentation, I will present you the project of an exhibition that was also held in Paris in the Grand Palais, but in another hall. The jewels from the Al-Thani collections, from the great Mughals to the Maharajas. This is a beautiful collection of art pieces of extreme value, diamonds, enamel, regalia, ornaments, turbans, objects of various objects of great value, and they needed to be present in a very huge hall. And this is a space of 17 meters hall, so you have to sort of evaluate how to present these small pieces in this huge space. So we tried to get some inspiration from India, Taj Mahal, some in Indian dreams of India, but then there's always this fear to do something to do too much, and we decided that the tools to create the scenography would be the wire mesh, some kind of suspended installations that would evoke India, and we would use reflective materials. And this is the plan. This is the plan. Usually when the plan is nice, then the exhibition usually works well. And also the sections that need to follow each other, because there's always some understanding behind. There's always the idea of the curator that we need to follow. We test in 3D. This is one of the tests in 3D, and this is another test in 3D. And this is the actual exhibition photographs of the exhibition in the Grand Palais, with the older pieces from 15th, 16th century. Then we had diamonds. Diamonds are so valuable that they had just one showcase for each diamond. And we have the central space with the hanging structure, which was just a very small evocation of this India of the Mughals. And we have attention to the objects. Mounting is very important, how to present pieces. And this is one of the diamonds for the end of the exhibition, and for the end of my short presentation. So I would like to thank you for listening, and thank you, Mr. Gajšak, for inviting me to present at the Design Expo. Thank you very much. Okay, and I don't know what is going on now. There should be some questions. Design Expo, what was the most complex exhibition that you have worked on? The most complex, I would say the most complex exhibition was this this Altani exhibition, because it had 3 phases. One phase in Paris, another one in Venice, and another in the Doge's Palace. I just showed you one of the pictures, and another one in Beijing, in the Forbidden City. So we had to adapt the contents and the way of exhibiting to 3 very complicated places, because these were historical monuments of great importance. So this was quite complex. This is very frustrating to look at your screen and not knowing who is asking, and if somebody is looking or listening. I must share this frustration. Then I have another question. What is the next big exhibition that you will do architecture for? We are preparing one big exhibition in the Louvre Abu Dhabi. This is about China and Islam, connections between China and Islam, and this will be an important exhibition that has been postponed because of the coronavirus. I think it should open in October, and it should be related to the Dubai World Exhibition, to Dubai 2020, which will be actually in 2022, and the China and Islam. We will have some let's say special installations in this exhibition. Now there is another question. Which exhibition had the most strict rules that you had to follow? Every exhibition has strict rules. Finally, I was afraid to go too fast, so I didn't really develop. But really, every exhibition has quite strict rules, and a lot of rules come from the venue. There are a lot of technical limits, and the concept of the exhibition is always moving. So you can we always share with the curators, and we can always find a solution. There is not an exhibition which would not have a special solution. But most of the difficulties are technical, and of course budgetary, because you have to fit into a budget. Okay, I think that's it, and thank you very much again for listening, and I hope you liked it.